In this video, I will show you how we can work on lens and surface parameters directly within the 3D view without having to switch into the Optical Design Editor. And in addition, I will show you how we can select single rays and get all the ray information through the raytrace report as well directly within the 3D view. By hovering over the lenses in the 3D view, we can see that the lenses get highlighted. And in the 3D view on the very bottom, we have this mouse selection mode icon. And by clicking on that icon, we can select different mouse selection modes. The first is for lens selection, the second is for surface selection, and the third is for ray selection. Let's use first the lens selection mode. And now we can see that by hovering over the lenses in the 3D view, the whole lens is getting highlighted. By double-clicking on the highlighted lens with the left mouse button, we can see that the active cell pointer in the Optical Design Editor will jump directly to the selected lens. And by clicking with the right mouse button, the Lens 3D menu will open. And in this Lens 3D menu, we can select and work on different parameters. For example, we can move the lens to different positions. For example, we can move the lens here in direction C to, for example, 20, and then we can see that the lens has been moved. We can as well rotate the lens. We can also click on this parameter, and then we can see that here a slider will open, and then we can just use this handle of the slider, and then we can rotate the lens through the slider. This can be used, for example, to do manually a visual lens optimization. There are several other parameters. For example, we can change the focus of the lens. We can bend the lens. We can flip the whole lens. We can change the position from relative to absolute. We can convert this singlet lens to a doublet lens. We can merge this lens with the previous lens. We can delete the lens and we can duplicate the lens. Here on the bottom, we can as well select the single surfaces of the lens. So for example, surface 1 of this lens. And there we can as well change different parameters of this specific surface of this lens. The second selection mode I want to show you is the surface selection mode. So we just click here in the surface selection mode. And when we hover now here in the 3D view over our lenses, we can see that not the whole lens is getting highlighted, but only the single surfaces of the lens. And by double clicking here on a specific surface, for example, let's take this surface here, we can see that the active cell pointer again here in the Optical Design Editor will jump directly to this surface that we selected here. We can open as well here this surface 3D menu by clicking with the right mouse button on this selected surface. And there we can see that we can also work on different parameters. Here, for example, we can change the radius of this of the surface. We can change the aperture. We can move this surface. We can rotate the surface. We can lock or unlock the aperture. We can flip the surface, and we can change the position from relative to absolute. The last selection mode I want to show you is the ray selection mode. So we just select here this ray. What happens now when we're hovering here over our model, we can see that here the single rays get highlighted. And what we can do now is we just double click on a single ray, and then we can see that here this ray tracing report is opening. And there we get all the information about the rays, for example, the ray direction, the ray intersection. And we can even select or get more information by clicking here on this icon. And there we can just select additional parameters that we want to show. And now we can see that here we have these parameters that we have selected here, the angle, the surface normal, the optical length, and so on. And what we can do for polarization systems. So if we have a system with polarized light, so let's activate here in our light source. Let's use a circular polarized light, and now we can select here these polarization parameters, and then we can see that we can see here, for example, the electric field, the orientation, the ellipticity, the Stokes parameters, and also the degree of the polarization. Yeah, this was my tutorial about the different selection modes. I hope you have learned something, and thanks for watching.